On today's show, we'll be talking about almost automated income with FBA. Now, if you've ever considered or are already doing a side hustle, stay tuned because my guest is Neil Twa. I'm Madeline Blair, and this is Unlocked, a show all about unlocking the resilient leader in you. Today, we're diving into a topic that sits at the intersection of entrepreneurial ambition and real economic opportunity, building what we're calling almost automated income through e-commerce, particularly using systems like Amazon FBA. If you're thinking that pursuing an online income is just a side hustle, you're not alone, and you're part of a powerful trend. Recent surveys show that around 38% of working Americans currently have a side hustle, and roughly 72% of workers either have one or are considering starting one. But the income from these ventures is often modest. The average side hustle earned about $885 per month. And if that sounds pretty good, and it does to me, consider that the median, which means half the people on one side of the number and half the people on the other side of the number, is only $200. So that means that there are a lot of people who are making very little, but there are a lot of people who are making some really good numbers. At the same time, platforms like Amazon have created an entirely new ecosystem for entrepreneurs to build legitimate businesses at scale. There are approximately 1.9 million active Amazon sellers in the United States alone, and millions more globally, giving sellers access to huge markets. What's more, independent sellers now account for over 60% of all sales on Amazon's store. And in 2024, these sellers supported more than 2 million jobs in the US, generating a combined income of more than 2.5 trillion in sales. These numbers tell an important story. Selling online, especially through platforms like Amazon, is no longer a niche side product. It's a significant economic engine with infrastructure, logistics, and fulfillment baked in. But success isn't just about building systems or about listing a product. It's also about building systems, understanding demand, and designing business models that last. Not fleeting side income, but resilient, almost automated income that can support long-term goals and eventual exits. That's the conversation we'll unpack today with Neil Twa. What it really takes to move beyond side hustle guessing and towards sustainable, resilient income through proven frameworks and disciplined entrepreneurship. Neil Twa, welcome to Unlocked.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, it's delightful to have you here. Let me tell the audience a little bit more about you. Neil is the CEO and co-founder of Voltage Holdings, a company that helps people launch, grow, and eventually exit e-commerce brands, particularly through Amazon FBA and multi-channel selling. But what makes Neil's perspective compelling isn't just what he's built. It's how he got there. You know, there's a lot of stuff in your bio about this, but you know what, Neil? I'm going to leave it for you to talk about that path that brought you here, because it's I think there's probably some great stories in there. So why don't I just jump to the first question on my list?
Go right ahead. That's wonderful.
Yeah, because you began the businesses you own and operate today, and it's businesses.
Correct.
It was all kicked off because of a bankruptcy. So how did bankruptcy become the catalyst for this change, and what has it led to?
I had started a series of companies, online and offline. After leaving my career at IBM in 2007, we say around here, is I fired the man and boat. Didn't burn the bridges. Very important because I needed the bridge on. But I had a situation that I got involved in a little too far over my head, as they say, the forest through the trees and that kind of thing. And didn't know what I didn't know, and was still kind of learning my ropes in terms of how to identify trustworthy people, their business, the way they do business, and how to, feel your way through a partnership in a relationship in business that you can or cannot trust based on certain things you know or don't know, experiences, that lead you to the wisdom. Well, I got pretty wise very fast when I discovered that the books weren't quite matching with the investment, and the money that I've been pouring into the company, as well as not getting back from it, was putting me in a very big financial strain to the point that I realized that I could no longer be in that business due to the way it was ran and the financial strain that it had put on my family. And so when I discovered this activity, I went and lawyered up and learned about that process too, and realized that if you either haven't got a lawyer or have never been sued in business, you're probably not trying hard enough. And so learning the ropes of the legality of that system taught me a lot about the business of business when it comes to legal transactions guidelines, what's hard and fast and what can be moved around as a guideline. And the bankruptcy was an effect of that. It was an outcome. It was a strategy that was not not really a part of what I ultimately thought would happen, because we had an idea, we had a patent, we had an amazing technology that no one's ever going to hear about, that I have a patent on. But that's okay. It was a pivoting point. It was a change. It was a learning experience. And like I said, I got wise pretty fast. But what it really meant at the end of all of that was, figuring out who I am, what's my tenacity, what's my perseverance level, what am I willing to do, what am I not willing to do. Those are lessons that without that experience, you can say you will understand. You can pontificate on social media all you want, but until you've actually learned it, you have no idea what the real world effect of that looks like on you, your family, and even your personal mental health and well-being. And for me, it was a huge struggle to get through that, to see the feeling of the betrayal that the relationship led to, the financial outcome and the hardship it placed on my family, the struggles it placed on my wife, who was pregnant with our fourth child. The fact that we had a car repoed at 10 o'clock at night, the garage was left open and they took the van out with all the car seats and everything in it, and that disappeared because, well, when you're putting food on the table and not paying for the car, you got to balance it out somehow. And so that was not fun, which of course exposed us to more family and friends who were not quite aware of what was happening. So that's kind of, how that sort of came down. And then you find out really who your friends and family are. I will tell you that if you think people are going to show up for you, in certain areas of life, medical illness, bankruptcies, financials, just go through one real quick. And I guarantee you're going to find out who your family and friends are. But out of that process, Madeline, one of the things that it did create for me was a framework, a life framework, a change. I was searching for profits. I was hustling life. I was doing things to try to become something I thought I needed to be. And what I was powering that under was the idea of just money, which was really arrogance and pride. And, there's a certain saying out there about pride cometh before the fall, right? And with that, pride led me to not being aware and seeing things for what they actually were and are. And that, led me down to bigger problems, and little compromises became bigger compromises, and so on and so forth. And when I realized I had to make a choice, the outcome was very difficult to walk through. And out of that framework, there were pillars of things that allowed me to stay in the right mindset, to understand what success looks like in your mind first, so you can apply it to the rest of your life. And those 5 things I now kind of live my life by. And I hope others who get into these situations or were coached by me or just in life or listening to this podcast today can really understand. And for me, the first one was faith. Without a faith, I would have crumbled. Without a faith, I would have lost my moral ground. I would have lost my perseverance. I would have lost my realization that this is temporal challenges, not forever challenges, things I can get past. And that faith helped me understand what a gift it was to think beyond myself and in some ways beyond this world. That led me to the family. Second thing, my family was most important. And one of the things I had been neglecting in the time that I was trying to become this person that ultimately failed in everything was my family to some degree. I had gotten married the same year I left IBM. My wife and I got pregnant with our first child that same year. And within 5 years, we had four kids under the age of 5. And all of this, stuff was leading to an ultimate realization that while I was trying to do what I thought was right by them, what I was doing was trying to, build a business, build that lifestyle, build the things I wanted for them for the future and things I wanted for myself. I was sort of leaving them out of the equation. And
one of the things, Neil, that I liked about reading about your story,
sure,
was that the family was a part of your decisions.
Yeah. They were the reason, and then they were what the inverted equation became right-sized after the bankruptcy. Profits no longer were the equation of what I was trying to do to hustle, make money, do life, so that I could have the purpose and value that I wanted. As I inverted that relationship in that, and I went for purpose and value, and then profits became a multitude of words that equate to profit, not just financial. We hear profit, we think financial, but there's profit of relationship, there's profit in family, there's profit in friends, which is the third pillar. Some of my friends were stronger than my family. Some of my family wanted to not be a part of my life anymore because they thought I was a liability. And some of my friends acted more like family when I needed them, right? And you never know how that's going to work. And then some of those people on both sides of the fence kind of disappeared because when you become a liability, they no longer stop. They don't want to talk to you, and they don't want to be a part of your life. And that's a hard realization to come through that.
When I work with people on resilience, one of the things that we always work on is what is their social support? Social support.
Who do you trust? Who do you know?
Yeah. Yes, and who are really there when you need them. And I'm just delighted to hear that you saw that as a part of your recovery, I'll call it, and your new life. You talk about persistence. I would say you were incredibly resilient. You made the decision to move on.
You know the phrase, "It's not my first rodeo," and which I think is kind of funny because I've never been in a rodeo, and people use that phrase, which I don't think they've been in rodeos either. But I had a situation prior to my wife. We were coming up on 19 years in March 2026 together.
Congratulations.
And, 21 total, 19 married. And I had been married once before. I hate to call it my training wife or the starter life or what all the phrases that people use online. What it really was the first time I really had a situation of betrayal in my life, in a marriage that only lasted 6 years. And a whole lot of other crap that I won't go into, but it really set the framework of what it took for me to understand who I am, what I can do, where I can go, who I can trust, who will be there for me. Yeah. That was a whole reset. I started over after that. I lost my job, lost my family that was her family, was estranged from my family for the better part of a decade, and didn't have anything coming out of it but debt, a car I didn't own, and no more house, no more life, no more wife, and restarting completely with a 450 credit score because I got completely crushed. Mm-hmm. And so by the time I had reestablished myself, kind of got back to life, got a career, was moving, met my wife now, Katie, who is really my soulmate, the right person for me at the right time in the right place, because that man was not the right person for her when he was younger. Yeah. So by the time I got to the bankruptcy, for me, that was kind of like another test. It was another piece of the road. It was another part of what is a series of events in my life, and where I've reset twice, restarted completely from ground zero.
I have to tell you a little story about this, because I don't know. Well, you don't need help, but I maybe somebody in the audience does.
Sure.
I'm a gardener, and one of the last things you do after you put the plant in the ground is you press it down. You press all around the roots. Why? Because roots grow against pressure. And that to me is a perfect metaphor for what we do in our life. Why do we have all these things? Okay. Yeah.
And I love to garden. We have a huge garden, I think we can talk about gardens. It's about 100-foot by 50-foot heritage seed garden that we plant and raise every year. So we love to garden as a family. Out here on our acreage, I've got between our 3 families now, we have about 65 plus acres.
Great.
Out here that we set on. So we love the country. We love the garden. There's a whole other topic I can get into, playing in the dirt. But I think you nailed it. Pressure is what refines. Is what make diamonds. The diamonds are made out of pressure. Things become beautiful under pressure. What I think everybody tries to do is avoid the pressure. And what I realized in my life was I went straight head into it. I'm not somebody who sits on the sideline. I'm not the guy that watches a car wreck and doesn't get involved. I'm not somebody who has in my life never stepped foot in a place of danger or concern or whatever to do something. It's a natural, inherent personality trait, life, God-given, whatever you want to call it. I don't hesitate when there's challenges. I don't hesitate when there's danger. It's just who I am. It's a, some people would jokingly call it the, fire first, aim second kind of person, right? I jump off a bridge with no parachute because I plan to build it on the way down. And I think to some people that feels chaotic. It feels unorganized. It feels dangerous. And that's okay, because everybody has a different personality type. And they think, well, that's high risk. And I'm like, yeah, but there's high reward with high risk. Out of that bankruptcy came high reward. I found my place. I found a business model that matched my life, my purpose and values. I found a way to make it work ethically, legally, morally, financially. And it has profited my family, not just in the financial rewards, but in our ability to stay together. We homeschooled our children when they went to school. We've been a part of their life every day. I've traveled 5 times away from them in what is now coming up on like 17, 18 years. They go with us. They travel with us. We do life together. We're a unit. We're a family. That value could never be understated. There's never going to be regret in the way that I've done my life. And the outcome of that has been profit, relationship, family, and otherwise. Financial profit has come from that too. But it didn't come without hardship. And I think that's one of the things I know so many people avoid, the pain of the hardship of trying out of the fear of failure. And I'm going to tell you, you have to do it anyways. You'll never become wise without the experience.
That's right.
And we're so lacking in experience today that we just make it up online and social media. And we have to be the first one to make up the experience and try to get the credit, and only to be proven 24 hours later we were totally wrong, which makes you look like an idiot. So knock it off. So the end result is...
I think that sometimes people think that when their life is comfortable, it means they're safe.
Yeah. No.
When in fact, that's not the case at all.
Not the case at all. It shouldn't be that way, right? The moment you're feeling too safe is the moment you've let off the gas. The moment you're probably not paying attention. The moment you're getting a little lackadaisy. Too much Netflix and chill, right? The idea of a side hustle and hobby business drives me nuts, because it's the idea that I can get maximum something from minimum nothing, and that it does not work. The hobby business is a high side hustle. You start something in order to grow it bigger. You don't start something in order to just maintain its minimum. And I think that's what so many people try to do, and that's why they fail, and they want some sort of guarantee it's all going to work. There's no guarantee. And I know some of you understand that, and I know you've probably heard somebody say that, but yet you're still not doing something about it.
That's right.
And that's
one of the things I liked also about your approach is that you didn't stop with just fixing your life.
No.
You have actually made it possible for other people to do the kinds of things you've done. In fact, you even wrote a book called Income with FBA. It's quite a book, by the way. It takes a while to read it.
It does. It's a slightly different format in the way that we did it, because I have a podcast, and I chose the people I felt were, high voltage individuals that come on my podcast. And then the book was built off of those high individuals who follow a similar process, mindset, and thinking about business and life that ties to the model of overall e-commerce, and starts with Amazon FBA as your first channel of sales to learn the ropes about how to launch products and build an entire company that can end up in multiple channels all the way out to retail.
That's right. Well, one of the questions that I have is, what was it in your life or in your thinking that made you decide to share this with other people rather than hold it onto yourself?
Because the arrogance and pride guy died. He was shot to death twice. And if I tried a third time, you know how this works. I'm smart enough to not have tried that a third time. The end result is the guy who pushed too hard those 2 times was not aware that what he was doing was completely self-serving. And for everybody who you look up to who's doing that, I'm telling you they're self-serving, right? I'm not saying this out of self-righteousness. I'm saying this by the fact that if you have the ability to help someone, you should. If you're going to make them put some sweat equity in the game, then they are going to have to understand that's what it takes to be successful. I've tried to do this with people for free. And guess what? They gave up because they had no motivation, no skin in the game, and no willingness to do it. So as I started to get successful, I had a lot of people asking me, well, what did you do? How are you doing it? Can you help me do it? And my first answer was, are you willing to put in the work? Right? Because we're going to waste each other's time in the most valuable resource that cannot be reclaimed, because more money can be made. but more time cannot, right? The end result is, we're wasting each other's time, and I don't want to be wasting your time or my time on things that are not going to be valuable to each of us. And so, as I started to teach people and saw some success, I put some guardrails around it and put up some cost barriers so that people would be sincere about actually doing the work. Those who did the work, followed the process, were coachable and trainable, became very successful. In fact, I've had some people become way more successful than me, and good for them for going through the process and becoming more successful. I get a high out of watching people help themselves become successful. Well, I might give them the roadmap and get them to it. We have a saying in the country: you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And if I'm going to lead you all to the same process, the end result is you must still get down and drink the water. I'm not going to force it down your throat. And I think a lot of people hear these things and they think that's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah. But as the teacher, I understand. You really do get rewards as you watch that.
Sure you do. Yeah, and you see those who raise up are the ones that take some action. We say take some action imperfectly, and something perfect will happen along the way. Mm-hmm. Usually, you're going to grow. You're going to have experiences, negative and positive. All of those growth experiences will be part of your successful journey. They'll be part of your story. And I have been privileged to be involved in hundreds and hundreds of stories of people who did that for themselves. They have pride in what they do. They have pride in their activities. They have pride in the failures and the successes that came out of the things that are making them better and better. And that is really exciting to watch them. I set it up in my business so that I could enable people to have that success along with us, putting some skin in the game with them, and also setting it up so that the business itself, when it becomes successful enough, I help them broker the sale. I might even buy the company. We bought 2 companies last year. So I set it up so that we're all in a win-win-win scenario so that they can become successful, and then they have a place to grow to even greater success. And if they do, I win too in that model, right? So I changed it up so that I'm not the first person to win in the business, and more people can win that way. And because of that, I've had more success helping more people win.
Fabulous. Well, you have something called the 4-step voltage framework.
Yes. Yep.
I wonder if you talk about that a little bit. So,
yeah,
because it sounds like that's part of the way.
Yeah, it is part of the way. Part of the way is answering. I had a call with a guy, one of the first people that I coached, and we went on this call for about an hour, and we had made some very successful failures that turned into some successful wins, and we finally hit our first 7 figures in business. And it was not long after that I had a coaching call with a gentleman, and we go through the process of what to sell, what product, what metrics, what do you actually sell. And I remember getting into this conversation. I think he's getting it, nodding, taking notes. We're doing great. And then I remember he just throws his hands in the air and goes, "Neil, but what the bleep do I sell?" And he didn't quite get it. And I said, okay, something isn't connecting here. So that became part of our framework. What the bleep do I sell? The first step of that process, because it's the same question everybody has. Yeah, it's great, Neil. It's good for you. But what do I sell? What do I sell? Okay, I'm making $200, $800 a month in side hustle. I'm trying to sell things. I'm trying to figure out what do I sell. Really, when it gets down to it in today's world, as we got past that conversation, as we got more data, as we got more intelligent, as we failed through more and more product launches that didn't work, we started to figure out more and more what did work and what data we should pay attention to and what data was just noise. And really, we got out of the emotional aspect of this game in that topic and really started down into the conditioning of what the heck to sell and who sells to it and where is the demand. And as data has grown and the network has grown and the businesses have grown and the technology has grown and AI is now growing at the speed of lightning, the aspect of what we do so much now, and that question, number one, what the heck do I sell, is answered in the data now. It is a data-driven analytical process, completely emotion-free.
Can you give an example of this so that people can get their minds around it?
Yeah. Well, let's just come up with an idea for a product. You have any thoughts on a product type of any kind, just a product of some kind? You love gardening, maybe something in that one.
Well, it could be gardening, but actually, I have something which I'm going to talk about in Grounds for Thought, but I'll start now because that doesn't matter.
Any kind of product, whatever your thoughts are. We can make up something.
It's an accessory. It's an accessory that will allow women who don't have pockets in their clothing to put their phone into something that will allow them to have their phone with them.
There you go. Okay, very a specific product for an avatar with a need. And that's going to tie into a little bit of the emotional outcome of that product. I would take that and flip it on its head just a little bit. And I would say, who is that audience and what are they willing to pay for it?
Yeah.
And do I know that there's data that shows me that someone's already buying a product like that one in the market? So we get between innovation and invention. Remember how I told you I was an inventor, has a really cool product that no one's ever going to hear of? Guess how I learned not to be an inventor? What I became was an innovator. Okay. Innovators understand that there is usually not anything new under the sun that hasn't been thought of yet, but there are new ways to think of things that already exist. There are new ways to put spins on it. And you sort of came up with that concept just now, didn't you? A new way to sort of spin out a need from a product, a satchel, a purse that has a specific outcome, a lady who wants a phone, to be in a protected place. That's an innovation. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the question becomes, is there someone else who's innovated a product in the marketplace already that may be selling that I can prove through data and numbers is selling? And the question then becomes not that it isn't selling and there isn't a market, which that is now established. Could I sell one? That's the real question. Can I sell one? Not that it doesn't, establish. And more importantly, can I sell one profitably? And that's actually step 2, going by the numbers. So as we identify the product type and idea, and there are millions of these, as you can probably kind of get an idea here as we're talking, there are millions of those. But the real question is, will it be profitable? Will I be able to source it and sell it, pay the fees necessary to move one of those units to market and actually make some money? That's net profit, not gross margin, not gross profit. It's called net profit, what I actually keep out of every unit of that purse that's sold. That's the most important. That's what I put in the bank. That's what actually matters. Right. So when we go by the numbers, we have to say, okay, if I'm using a platform or I'm doing marketing, they have fees associated with them. And I have to make sure I understand what those fees are. And then I have to calculate those fees, what are called cost of goods, the marketing, the product, the images, the things that make that product go to market. And then at the bottom of that, and all of that throwing into that net comes out what I actually get to keep. And for us, it has to be a minimum of $12 in net profit per unit. With the systems today, the cost of the platforms, the marketing cost to reach users today for paid traffic, even organic, I have a cost associated with that. And when I get done with those costs and the movement of that product, I want to keep a minimum of $12 in profit for every unit sold. There's a reason for that number. In the data and all the products we've launched, and we not only launched thousands in our own brands and client brands, we had a software that for a long time and launched more than 60,000 products into the market. So we had a lot of data to back our green light process on. That software is no longer available, but the process of our green light methodology is still there based on the data from these products and has only matured the farther we've gone in business. And with that, I can see that if it's a green light product, there's a market for it. I can sell a unit of it. And that's the most important thing to know in step 2 is that I can actually sell a unit of my product profitably. And I have to know my numbers. There is no guessing in this business. Okay. There are numbers-based decisions, not emotions, right? So once I get through that, here's where the thing can kick in a little bit. This is where you can get a little dangerous with the emotional side. And it's this third thing. Okay. We say, don't marry your products. Steal someone else's girlfriend instead. Okay. There are plenty of products in the market that have demand and they don't have necessarily a second or tertiary competitor in the market. And that's a niche you can fit into. And if you can establish that there are at least 1 or 2 other products that meet very close to your innovation, but are not exactly your innovative product, you might be the second or third person into that marketplace. And that's an opportunity. Now, here's the problem. The deeper we go into products, the better they're going to look, or the worse they're going to look. Okay, the farther you go into it, it's going to look better, it's going to look worse. Here's where people get trouble relieving themselves of the product idea and being emotionally attached to it, married to it, before they should actually be married to the product. They race to bed before, in the first date, before they should wait for a few months to find out if he's a serial killer or not. So we wait for products to prove to us whether or not they should be married. And here's how that process in its most simplest form works. I will take 100 to 200 of those products to market. And I will say, is there an opportunity for me to sell this product? Number 1, sales fixes everything. So if I can sell this product and I can prove there's a market that wants my version, my innovation of that, and I know there's others selling in the market, but they actually want some of mine, then I'm going to have that data to tell me whether or not I should put more time, energy, and attention and money into growing that product faster. And I should do that as quickly as I can and as imperfectly as I can, because money is important. You understand that time and money are important, but we have to understand that the time is more important than the money. And so we want to quickly figure out what the answer to that question is. We don't want to lollygag around. and wait for months or years to figure that out. We want to know as quickly as we can know that this thing is going to work. And that's by selling the product and not being afraid to try and sell it. Okay. Mm-hmm. And when those numbers come in, if we feel the product is doing well, the data is saying, hey, it's going well, we're starting to sell this product, it's starting to look better, then we'll take and order 1,000 units of that product and put it in the market. Once the data proves that I should put it on. If the second product or third product don't look any good and don't look good, the data's not working, I'll let them sell out of their units however long it takes for me to recoup that. And I'm going to go focus on the next product because there are millions of product opportunities. Don't marry your products. Okay. Even when I get past that 1,000 units, do you know when I should actually marry my product? Any ideas? When do I get married to my product? When do I put a ring on its finger?
Well, I think if you see the market and growing.
Yeah, if it's growing. And here's what that could look like. It could look like me selling 1,000 units of that product in less than 90 days. Whereas before, when I launched the product, it took me about 90 days to sell through that first 100 to 200 units. But as my brand grew, as my reviews grew, as my data got better, I can now see myself selling 1,000 units because the metrics are telling me you're going to sell through 1,000 units in 90 days. Mm-hmm. If I can sell 1,000 units every 90 days, 4 times in a year, that's 4 turnover of inventory. I can move 4,000 units of that product in a year.
If and you make $12 a unit.
That's right. If it's turning over a 40 or 50% unit ROI, I'm actually getting a 200% return on my money if I'm turning those 4,000 units over a year. Mm-hmm. That is not a side hustle. That is product one of a multi-brand product. So the 5x5 methodology is to launch 5 of those test products, to find 1 or 2 of them that will do exactly what I just said to you, because the market demand and time meets up with your expectations. You now have good data to go after. And as a business owner understands that, that's your liability. That's your opportunity. That's your chance to go marry this product by finding another 5 of those. Because now you know which 2 are selling. You can now find 10, 15, 20, 50 variations of that product type to sell into the market, and it's not guessing anymore. You're simply giving the market more and more of what it wants. Okay, and as you give the market more and more of what it wants, it's going to grow faster and faster.
And you're letting the market tell you. You don't.
I'm not smart enough to tell the market what it wants. I'm not Elon Musk. I built a system in order to eliminate my need to have to be that person. The system of Greenlight and the data we run gives us the product types that tell me exactly what I'm telling you now. And driven by AI systems and databases, it spits out from Amazon's own data set, which I have access to, tells me exactly what's selling in the market. I filter it through my Greenlight process. If it's green and it matches that exact scenario, we test the product. So when we get out there, then what is it we need? We need traffic and sales. So Amazon's like a river, okay? But it's also a big decision tree of data in these AI systems, okay? Yeah. So I don't really have to market anymore. This is where a lot of people think, well, I need to build funnels. I need to market. I got to know meta ads and social media. No, these are AI-driven systems now, and their entire intent is to put something in front of you, video, audio, or a physical product, and get you to buy it.
Matches your needs because they know our needs.
It's an intersect engine and matching your needs. Yes, ma'am. It's exactly what it's doing. And that is so fascinating because it's grown so quickly.
Yes.
That we are now out of the direct response marketing for products, and we now sell data and intelligence to AI engines. That's what I do now. And it sells physical products to people. I want you to hear me when I say this. I sell data and intelligence to AI engines, and it sells physical products to people. Once you grasp the reality of that, everything we talk about from a side hustle and hardware business disappears all of a sudden, because these systems run 24/7, 365, faster than you and I can think. And their entire job is to sell something to somebody in 30 seconds or less. So I have to get with them. They are my customer now. So when I say Amazon's a river, but it's a decision tree, it's the first place I take people to go learn how those kinds of systems put product in front of people whose entire intent is to buy a product. So why not buy mine? The first problem is you don't have one in the system. They can't buy your product if it's not there. So you actually have to get something in there.
Well, it's interesting. The F in FBA is fulfillment. And I always interpreted that as actually packaging it up and getting it to the customer. But what you're saying, the fulfillment is even earlier, because it's now doing the marketing as well, because it's putting it in front of the people who are interested.
You bought something on Amazon before?
I have been a customer of Amazon since way back when they used to send their customers gifts
Yes, I was back in the day too. I mean, I have one of the oldest Amazon accounts in history. I remember those days, and the inclination here is to think I have to package the product, ship the product, and put it in my warehouse or put it in my garage, and that's the wrong way of doing this. Amazon's infrastructure is planes, trains, and automobiles 24/7. It's the entire infrastructure. So when I say almost automated income, what I'm looking at is the data, the product, and the marketplace reading the data because I'm not smart enough to tell it what it wants, then giving it what it wants so it can deliver it to the customer in 2 hours or less. So my job is to find out who wants that product and then give them one, and then keep giving them one of them until they say, I want more of that one. And as soon as they say you want more of that one, I'm going to go give them more. We call it feeding the beast. I'm going to keep feeding that in there. And why Amazon first? Okay, everybody loves or hates this thing. And someone who's played a little side hustle on Amazon, flipped some products, did some shop your way to wealth kind of thing, or did wholesale or whatever, or arbitrage, you're playing with the system. They don't like that. They want brands, businesses, registered, United States, owners. They want to build brands and build business off of that. If you're doing anything but that, you're playing with the system that will ultimately catch you and shut you down. And there's a lot of screaming online about this when people hear Amazon because they get shut down. I've never had a company shut down on Amazon. Okay. The reason is we're playing by the business rules. We have a business, we have an LLC, we do a trademark, we have intellectual property, we manufacture products, we play in the ecosystem so much so that they've come to us and said, we want to partner with you. So we're Amazon product partners in a company, a business chain they call the NSI Plus. And in that, I get growth teams and Amazon partnerships. They set across the office from where Bezos used to be. And this is all about launching proper brands and products in a partnership with them that gives us an account manager and a growth team inside of Amazon that partners at every product launch we do. So we are in the system of maintaining this growth and structure, building the business the correct way from the beginning, with the end in mind, which would be us selling an asset. We're building a business that is becoming an asset. No one wants to buy a job. They don't want to buy a side hustle. They don't want to buy a hobby business. They don't want to buy 10 truck rolls a week of work warehousing and stuff. Ask me how I know. I ran one of those for a while. For 2 years, we had 21,000 square foot of warehouse. We had 10 truck rolls a week and 12 employees, and we shut it all down. We went to high 8 figures very quickly, but very low margins. Sub 5% net profit on the business. And we had employees, workhouse, warehouse, all of this stuff. It just became an absolute nightmare. It was a crime of opportunity. So if you think that you can work your way to that, what you get is a job. You don't get an actual business. What I've created now is a system that does not require me to be present at every part of it. Amazon now becomes the fulfilled by Amazon last mile delivery intelligence engine that is trying to sell products to people. So it just needs me to give it more product data so it will go sell more products. And then I can go over to Walmart and they can use Amazon to fulfill my products. And then I can go to TikTok Shop and they will use Amazon to fulfill my products. And I go on Shopify and they use Amazon to fulfill. You see where I'm going with this? Okay. And then I have a one warehouse and one brand company because of the length of amount of product we're moving in that brand. And down at Temecula, there's a warehouse, 10,000 square foot. We're going to have to get twice that much next year at the speed it's growing. Where one guy, shout out to Blake, who's our operations manager, does an amazing job running that warehouse. He's 24 years old and just actually kicks patootie. He's so amazing. And that is for retail because we have 5 retail arms, 2 more coming online. Michael's has signed on. The team is meeting with them in February in Irvine to go out there. And Target Plus is now buying from us as well. So 2 new brands that are rolling up. We have 5 others right now.
Well, I'm glad to hear there's growth in retail.
They're planning 2027 boards right now, Madeline. The growth people don't see right now is what they're missing and what's about to change in our economy. They don't see it yet. We see it. We see it. The bigger box retailers and other companies see it. There's amazing growth. They're like, no, we don't want to talk about 2026. We've already got that figured out. We want to talk about 2027.
Interesting.
So that just tells you that there's things beyond what you feel is happening today that are much greater than I can really say and articulate right now, but people are going to experience it this year. So the traffic and the systems are all built into the cake. And as I build on the first platform of Amazon, I create a hub and spoke business model that once I find a successful product that turns into successful products and builds a brand on Amazon, I now have the infrastructure to go out to all these different sales points. Very quickly moving to other data and algorithmic systems. Walmart's just another data and algorithm. TikTok's just another data and algorithm. Meta ads and Google and Shopify are just another data algorithm.
Gee.
Right? So we just move data out into different locations and we keep expanding known products in a brand. Oh, and by the way, do you know that's Amazon, of all those 1.9 million sellers you mentioned earlier, okay, The average income is $250,000 a year for the sellers on Amazon. Okay. There are obviously sellers that make more than that. There's some that make none. They're nothing. They don't make anything. Okay. Because they didn't do it right. They didn't hustle, whatever the case may be. Some making a little side hustle income, others right. But it's one of the only ecosystems that has that average online for sellers and platform. Okay. You mentioned more than 60% make up close to $600 billion in sales a year of the 800 something billion that Amazon makes. It is their ecosystem. They want to maintain and grow, and you play within it. It gives you huge opportunities for growth and scale. And how do I mean growth and scale? I have a person in our group who started with us in 2020. Okay. That was only 6 years ago, who is exiting his brand this month for $29 million, $22 million in cash, $7 million in earnout. That's a pretty good business, not a side hustle. That's a pretty good business. He has multiple channels. So we always go beyond Amazon, but it's a great place where we incubate the products. That's where the traffic comes into that fourth piece. Now, the fifth piece I'm talking about, as I just alluded to, the last component for this, because I know I'm going long, forgive me, is what we call the platinum principle. And that is building that business with the exit in mind. A business is worth more in the end than at any time during the business building phase. You need to think of everything you do in the business building phase as an investment into the exit of that, the generational lifetime wealth changing opportunity. Okay. You may not get a Daniel size move in 5 years. You may do it in 10. Okay. If you do it in 10 and you can clear out a business that makes $29 million in sales for your family, would you not invest in that? And I think a lot of people don't see it as an investment. And I'm trying to help you understand time, energy, attention, and money to an actual business that has an upside, an asset driven potential is what we're talking about here. When I'm building the assets of property, when I'm building the data, when I'm building the portfolio, when I'm building the sales channel, when I'm building out the people that run the business. You mentioned $2.5 trillion in economics are placed in that market share, and that is one channel. We haven't even got to the other channels that are impacted by that, including the wholesale retail sides that we do, as well as other platforms and channels that are impacted, or the 20 people that are running around Voltage. That are in here. But here's the thing that I learned, Madeline, about all that stuff. There's a way to do that. It doesn't, take your entire life doing it, right? The people we've been able to train them faster in shorter amounts of time because we've had the experience, the pain of doing it for 13 years on Amazon and over 18 years on my own. I can now train people to do what Daniel did in 5 years, right? But I need people to think in the 3 to 5 year range, like the E-Myth says, right? Do what people are not willing to do for 3 to 5 years so you can live like no one else can afterwards. So if we get out of that side hustle and hobby mindset, we get into the I'm investing in my future, my family, and my life, then whatever time it takes, I will do that. Time will no longer be seen as a scarcity. It'll be seen as this is not a priority, so I need to reshift my priority. Thus, I will have the time, find the time, or readjust my time to make that priority. So we change that language, right? The energy it takes. You all have energy. Stop Netflixing and chilling. Go to bed early. Get up earlier. Give yourself the energy necessary. Don't take energy shots and drinks. But go for a walk. Do something for energy. Okay. The attention required is now getting out of this 6 second mindset that everyone's caught into. Okay. This idea that you can't do anything if it didn't happen in 6 seconds or 6 minutes or 6 months. If it happens in 6 years, that's life-changing. Just look back on the last 6 years. How fast has it gone, right? It's gone really fast.
I think what you're talking about is the mindset.
I'm talking about a success mindset.
And is that a mindset for creativity, relaxation, accountability, success? Tell me a little bit more about that mindset.
Yes, but really it gets down to making sure that your success mindset is focused on the things that matter the most in the end. As the business grows, as you build, as you have the family and friends, as you have the 5 F's, if you have things that are in purpose, the success mindset should encompass all of those things because they're all practical in every daily walk that you have. And to understand the success mindset, you have to understand something about people who now live in abundance in that mindset, who used to live in scarcity. And by scarcity means you try to keep it to yourself. You try to build your own, that arrogance and pride. Abundance says, I'm going to give you everything you could possibly imagine. Even if you don't understand what it is right now, I'm going to tell you about it, right? Because it's your opportunity to gain that abundance. It's my opportunity to not leave you in a place where you don't understand that. I have that opportunity in that moment to give that to you and to receive it as I'm receiving from you today and this experience we're having here, which I enjoy very much. And I thank you again for letting me come on and talk. But Yes, the success mindset encompasses all those things, and it encompasses a future person who stops speaking in scarcity, starts speaking in abundance. As you have time, energy, and attention, you say, I don't have those things, Neil. I have a job. I can't do that. That's scarcity. Again, prioritizing says, I don't have the time. Would you go to your child and say, you know what? I don't have time for you right now. No, no, we don't say that. We say, I'm too busy. I can't do that. You make excuses to save their feelings. But would you actually go to them and just say, you're not a priority right now? It's kind of harsh, but it's what you're saying to them when they hear you. You might as well say it. Okay. So we need to make time for things that are a priority. Successful mindsets make time for the things that are priorities. Out of that comes the reward of all the other things you want when you're willing to do that. If you're willing to give more, you will receive more. It's a simple combination of most people I know who have great success in life.
What I really like about what you have said is that when you are assessing this, you're looking at your entire life,
Yes.
not just what people think of you in terms of your bank account.
No, yeah, because why? I'm
None
going
of
to die
those things.
someday, and I don't win an award for having the most stuff.
That's right.
And I'm not going to have a big U-Haul behind my hearse. I'm not taking it with me. What's the point? Sorry, I mean to cut you off.
No,
You're saying
no, it's okay. This has been fascinating.
you can't take it all. I think some people are still trying to accumulate all that, and that's not what we're talking about here. And if that's what you're hearing, you're not listening. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. That's okay. But the end result is, we want some things because we feel like they're going to give us more value. People are going to see us better. We're going to feel more value, feel more confident. And I'm saying right now, a success mindset has all that, even if you have nothing.
Correct.
That's the big thing to understand out of this. As someone who's had nothing multiple times in life, and at 49, I've lived 3 lives now. I can say that with confidence. I have 3 separate and distinct different lives that I have led since I've been born. And in 49 years, I have lived enough. Like, I understand. Like, there's a lot more to do. But here's the thing other successful mindsets understand. And if you're listening to this today, huddle in for a second. I really want you to understand this. The past does not exist. It is in your mind. It is the only place it exists. The future only exists in your mind. It has not been made yet. The only thing that matters is what we're doing today. This is our present. Okay. You cannot create a new tomorrow. You can have a predictable future. And here's what I mean by that. I know I'm going to be in the e-commerce business in the future. I know I'm going to be in physical products, building brands, acquiring brands, selling brands. That's my predictable future. I know in some way it's not going to look like it does today. That'd be naive, but that's what my future is going to look like.
Neil Twa, this has been really interesting.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say that.
You've opened a door for me, which I always appreciate. Learning new things, and a rather tempting door, actually. So,
a tempting door. It's a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun with it. It's creative. I have a creative side.
I can tell.
Well, I went to, well, this is going to sound the wrong, I have a creative side. I know I say that, but I played trumpet since I was in the 4th grade. I went to college on a music scholarship. I spent 3 years in college going to do music until I discovered the internet, became a computer science major, then bailed out in my 3rd year because I was going to go live in a van down by the river as a really cool musician, which is cool now because you can be like an Instagram star or whatever, but it wasn't cool back then. And to go to the internet. But I think if anybody wants to learn a little bit about that process and about what the opportunity may look like and deeper, I have gifts for people here, for who knows they're still listening, to give away that maybe, help them focus and understand what the real opportunity looks like.
Great. Well, we will put those in the show notes on YouTube.
Awesome.
And thank you.
Just give.
Absolutely. Thank you, Neil Twa.
Thank you.
Every now and then, there is something that changes how I think about the world. Grounds for Thought is a place where I talk about these moments so that you can explore the meaning for yourself.
Things may come to those who wait, but only the things left by those who hustle. Now, this sounds like something that your coach would tell you. However, believe it or not, that was said by Abraham Lincoln. I was pleased to see that the side hustle is not really a new thing. It reminded me that my mother, who ran our farm, had a side hustle of selling some of the farm's specialty products to individual customers. Now, our main products were eggs, asparagus, and tomatoes. They were sold to the co-op or to Campbell's Soup. But the specialty items, like jumbo eggs, which were not on the market at that time, thin asparagus for specialty dishes, you couldn't find those in the grocery store either at that time, and vine-ripened tomatoes. Believe it or not, they weren't in the stores then either, because the big market said they won't last. These became the products her customers waited to get from her. Never large, but still it grew to a bit more than pin money and helped us all. As I thought about this side hustle, my first job was helping her with sales. I was 9 when I started and continued to help her well into my teens. As I remembered this, I asked myself why I hadn't tried a side hustle myself. And then I remembered about 10 years ago, I did. I had problems with, and I've already said it in the show. Women's clothing, they don't have pockets, and if they have pockets, they're very shallow pockets. Don't ask me why. And men have trouser pockets that go way down. They can put their whole hand in it, and they can put their phone in it. And I said, I'm going to make something for women so that they have a pocket. And so I designed something called a La Pocket. And I found someone who would make them and someone who would sell them. And I began making them. And it was an exciting time. We had various kinds of styles. And there was a fashionista who called them elegant and functional. Suddenly, however, my producer had a problem. And I was left because she couldn't produce them anymore, and I was left with the remaining supplies and inventory. I had to abandon the side hustle, but I never regretted doing it. I learned a lot about manufacturing, supply chains, and retail. More than anything, I enjoyed the feeling of doing something I wanted to do that was so different from my usual analytical work. It drew from what I have always enjoyed, namely fashion. And I like to think that I helped the market of accessories for carrying a phone, because today there are many varieties in the market of how women can carry their phones in comfort, safety, and convenience. However, I think none of them have the simplicity and ease of use that my design has. Now, thanks to Neil's information, I just may think about getting started again, but clearly there's a lot more for me to think about. Because I've also heard that the secret of getting ahead is getting started. And once again, that's not from a modern guru, that's from Mark Twain. Neil has made it so much easier to think about not just a side hustle, but a whole new business. My own conclusion is that I'm going to get started again. So what's on your mind? I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope this conversation has offered not just new ideas, but a different way of noticing, one that restores attention, connection, and the capacity to learn. And if you're on YouTube, click the like button and subscribe. This helps me enormously, but it also helps others who are looking for this kind of information. And we'll have all those special offers listed there with how to get them that Neil has offered. I'm Madeline Blair, wishing you infinite possibilities as you unlock your resilient leader.